Welcome back. For Republicans in Wisconsin, the last few elections have had mixed results. The GOP lost their bid to unseat Governor Evers last fall, and conservatives failed to keep a seat on the state Supreme Court, allowing the balance of that court to flip for the liberals for the first time in more than a decade. But Republicans sent U.S. Senator Ron Johnson back to Washington for a third term. Now, heading into 2024, what does the game plan look like for the GOP here in Wisconsin? Joining us now to talk shop is Brian Schimming, chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So with a year out into the election, what does that game plan look like for you guys?
Well, I've been saying all around the state and all over the country, Wisconsin really is not one of 50 states next year. We're one of 5. We've had 12 elections in the last 24 years in this state that have been decided by less than 30,000 votes. So what does that tell us? That tells us that really it's about the ground game and that talking to voters across this state in every county, in every community, every town, every village is a very, very high priority for us. We've been recruiting volunteers like crazy. It's really even short of the convention, which obviously is a big deal in Milwaukee. The energy level out there, I've been in dozens of counties since I've been chair in the last 6 months. The energy level is really, really high. And so I'm optimistic, number one. And number two, look, 2022, each party had its disappointments, but I will tell you, we elected the first Republican member of Congress in 26 years out in western Wisconsin. We picked up 3 members of the state assembly and almost took a supermajority there, picked up a state Senate seat and did take a supermajority there, elected a new Republican state treasurer. So we have a lot of victories to build on, and we're going to.
So actually, specifically to those legislative districts, there's a lawsuit before the state Supreme Court right now that could actually see all of the state Senate turnover and people have to run in these new districts. How much does that factor into your game plan for 2024?
Well, we sit here and look, out-of-state left-wing groups poured millions of dollars into Wisconsin to take over the Supreme Court. And now that they have the majority, what they want to do is to essentially throw out the districts that were approved by the courts 2 years ago and make people vote in different districts than they just voted on. And that, to me personally, having watched these things for about 30 years, is a travesty. It's an embarrassment, and we shouldn't be in this position. But because the left has targeted Wisconsin, I can see a situation where the Supreme Court will try and throw out those maps, not only legislative maps, but gubernatorial maps. So people watching us right now literally could end up in a district that they've never lived in their life. And I think that's unfair to the voters of this state. I hope the Supreme Court does not do that. But and I think it would be, honestly, I think it would be a shame if they did, and frankly, an affront to the voters of the state.
Now, at the top of the ticket next year will be that race for president, and the Republican field is narrowing with the departure of former Vice President Mike Pence. We're expecting a Marquette poll on the primary next week. From your travels, right, as you're traveling out and about around the state, what are you hearing from folks about their preference for who that top of the ticket candidate might be?
Well, the advantage that I've got, and we saw it play out in the debate here in Milwaukee, is that I have any number of candidates that almost any voter can vote for as a Republican presidential candidate. I mean, I think the advantage that we have as Republicans is that I have a lot of choices. Obviously, President Trump is in a good polling position right now, but historically, folks that lead this far out aren't necessarily always the nominees, so we'll let that play itself out. I'd rather have the situation that I'm in, where we've got all sorts of great choices, than the situation the Democrats are in, which they are stuck with Joe Biden, who is upside down on every single poll being taken lately, including the Marquette poll that you referenced before here in Wisconsin. So you've got well over 70% of Democrats, not all voters, but Democrats, saying that they want somebody else on the top of the ticket for the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is not their fallback position. So I've got a situation where I got all sorts of great candidates that almost everybody on the street can vote for. They're stuck with Joe Biden, and I think that is a major advantage for us, not only here in Wisconsin, but across the country, and the polling bears that out.
And so also to whoever candidate emerges, especially for us in Wisconsin next April, will have to face Biden and the Democrats, especially down ballot with Senator Tammy Baldwin up next year too. Who do you expect that would look like?
So here's Tammy Baldwin's problem. She's a 95% vote. I mean, think about this. She's a 95% vote with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which automatically puts her in a tough position here in Wisconsin, where right now, not only is the president and vice president upside down in the numbers, almost their position on almost every issue, whether it's crime, the border, the fact that we've had almost 18% inflation under Joe Biden, mortgage rates pushing 8%, and now terrorism as well. So, on almost every issue facing the voters right now, Joe Biden and Tammy Baldwin are upside down. We've got already a couple of candidates running. There are two or three others that are talking about it. I think we'll have more clarity on that in the next 30 to 60 days, but I'm very, very confident we're gonna A, have a strong candidate, and B, that Tammy Baldwin's gonna have to face her record. Not the record of her trying to talk like a moderate occasionally, like she is right now, but a almost 12-year long record of being on the left side of the Senate Democratic Conference in DC. And that is a side of the issues that the people of the state do not agree with.
So much of the story of 2022 and a little bit this April in 2023 was the issue of abortion. When we talk about 2024 and when we sit down, likely late next year, what do you think in terms of issues the story of 2024 will be?
I think the story of the issues in 2024 will be the economy, will be the border and terrorism, and will be whether the fact that people in this state, people who are watching us right now, overwhelmingly believe that the country is on the wrong track and that the Republicans are the ones to put it back on the right track. And also, frankly, to mention your point before, the enthusiasm is clearly with the Republicans right now. Look, where are the Democrats going to go? They can buy all this advertising, they can do all these things that they want, but the people on the streets of this state know what's going on at the convenience store, know what they're paying for gas, they know what they're paying at the grocery store, and no amount of $multi-hundred-million advertising by out-of-state interest groups into Wisconsin is going to change that fact.
Chair Schimming, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me.